I was still holding Grandma Rose's hand when Jake leaned close and whispered something that changed everything. "Get your bag, we're leaving. Act like nothing's wrong." At first I thought he was joking. We were at my grandmother's 85th birthday, surrounded by balloons, laughter, and cake. Sierra. My sister was giving one of her dramatic speeches thanking everyone and gushing about Dad's efforts to make it all happen. Grandma, wrapped in her favorite blue shawl, sat quietly like a queen, smiling at the crowd. It should have been a happy day. But Jake's whisper wasn't lighthearted. His tone was calm, but his eyes were filled with fear. Real fear. I froze, my heart pounding, unsure what to do. Jake gave me the faintest smile, a small shake of his head, and brushed his fingers against mine, our old secret signal for leaving gracefully. Confused but trusting him, I stood, squeezed Grandma's shoulder, and excused myself, telling her I was just stepping to the bathroom. Jake and I slipped through the crowd, laughing at a joke someone made, acting casual. Inside, the sliding door closed behind us and Jake's grip tightened around my wrist. "Jake, what's going on?" I whispered, trying to sound calm. "You're scaring me. Just trust me. I'll explain everything in the car." He guided me to the hallway where our things were. He handed me my purse and phone, his eyes darting across the room like we were being watched. Outside, the kids still played on the lawn, the sun still shone, but I could feel it now, the wrongness. Jake unlocked the car, opened my door, and as soon as we were inside, he locked every door with a sharp click that echoed in my chest. He didn't start driving right away. He just sat there watching the rearview mirror, his jaw set tight. Then he turned to me and said words I'll never forget. "Something's very, very wrong." My throat went dry. It was just a birthday party, or at least that's what I thought. But the way Sierra had been staring at us when we left, her fake smile gone, her eyes following us like she knew something, that was when I realized Jake wasn't exaggerating. The whole nightmare had started a few weeks earlier with a phone call I almost didn't answer. My father's name flashed across the screen. We weren't close. Every conversation with him made me feel smaller, like I didn't belong in his version of family. But curiosity won, and I answered. "Maya," he said warmly, almost too warmly. "How are you, sweetheart?" Immediately I was on alert. My dad rarely called unless he wanted something. And sure enough, after a little small talk, he told me about Grandma Rose's 85th birthday. "We're planning a big surprise party. Balloons, cake, all of it. Sierra's helping, and it would mean the world if you came." Hearing Sierra's name made me hesitate. My sister and I had never been close. Since we were teenagers, she treated everything like a competition, always needing to outshine me. But this wasn't about her. This was Grandma Rose, the woman who had raised me more than either of my parents ever did. Of course I had to be there. When I told Jake about the invitation, he frowned. "Your dad invited you, that's unusual." "I know," I admitted, "but it's Grandma, I can't miss it." He agreed, though I could tell he didn't trust it. He even booked us a hotel nearby just in case we needed an escape. Driving back to my childhood home felt surreal. The 6-hour ride was filled with music and snacks, but underneath it all was a current of unease. When we finally pulled into the driveway, I barely recognized the house. It looked the same: white shutters, the porch, the familiar mat, but something about it felt staged. Too perfect. Balloons tied to posts, a giant banner, everything polished to a shine. Dad greeted us with a big grin, Sierra at his side with a clipboard. "There she is, my girl," he said, pulling me into a hug. Sierra kissed the air near my cheek, all fake sweetness. Jake held my hand tighter, his silence speaking volumes. Inside, the house was spotless, too spotless. Fresh paint, new rugs, every detail curated like a model home. But there was a chill, an emptiness beneath the perfection. Then I saw Grandma sitting quietly in her armchair, her blue shawl draped around her shoulders. She looked frail, paler than I remembered, her eyes foggy, her grip on my hand weaker than it had ever been. Jake bent down and greeted her, and she smiled up at him. "Oh, Jack," she said. My stomach dropped. She had never once forgotten his name. Sierra swooped in, brushing it off. "She's just tired. Doctor says it's age." Her words were too quick, too dismissive. As I looked around, I noticed men I didn't recognize, well-dressed, standing apart from the crowd, not eating, not smiling, watching. Who are they? I whispered to Jake. I was wondering the same thing, he murmured. From that moment, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a birthday celebration at all. It was something else, something carefully orchestrated. And when Jake later told me about the wires he'd found under the porch and the empty medicine cabinet, where Grandma's pills should have been, the dread settled into my bones. That was the day I realized going back home had been a mistake. Jake pulled me into the hallway, his voice lowered to a near whisper. He told me about the wires he'd found tucked under the porch, small, thin, hidden like someone had gone to great lengths to conceal them. Not just power cables. He thought they were for audio or video. One line ran right into the wall of the living room. I felt the air drain from my lungs. Why would anyone be recording inside my grandmother's house? I asked, but my voice was too shaky to sound convincing even to myself. He shook his head. That's not all. There are men posted along the back fence pretending to blend in, but they're not guests. I overheard one of them mention timing the drop. That's not party talk, Maya. My stomach clenched. I thought about Grandma in her chair, her eyes foggy, her words slurred. About the empty medicine cabinet. Jake, she called you Jack. She's never once forgotten your name, and she looks sedated. He nodded grimly. That's exactly it. They're keeping her just lucid enough to appear present if anyone asks, but too drugged to resist. I think your dad and Sierra are planning something with her estate. If she's declared unfit, they can take everything. My heart pounded so hard it felt like my ribs might crack. But why now? Because all the legal power shifts when she turns 85, he said. Some clause in the trust, maybe. I don't know yet, but they're moving fast. I wanted to deny it to believe this was paranoia, but the pieces fit too perfectly. Grandma's sudden frailty, the staged perfection of the house, the strangers lurking the missing prescriptions, and Sierra smiling like she'd already won some invisible prize. Before I could answer, Sierra's voice rang through the hall. There you two are. Cake and gifts are starting. Don't miss it. She beamed at us, her tone too sweet, her eyes too sharp. Jake forced a smile, promised we'd be right there. As soon as she turned the corner, his expression hardened. We're leaving after cake, he whispered. I nodded, my body numb. Back in the living room, Sierra lit candles on the towering cake while Dad stood beside her, smiling like a king beside his heir. Grandma sat slouched, her eyelids heavy. I knelt gently, shaking her arm. Grandma? She blinked slowly, her voice faint. Oh, hello, dear. She's just tired, Sierra cut in, quickly dismissive. We'll let her rest after cake. The chorus of happy birthday rang out, shaky but cheerful. My throat tightened. I couldn't sing. I could only watch my grandmother struggle to keep her head upright, her dignity slipping away while my family posed for photos. Sierra leaned in behind her, grinning as if nothing was wrong. When Jake's hand touched my arm, I knew. It was time. We moved calmly, deliberately, like every step was choreographed. We smiled, nodded, accepted slices of cake we never touched. And then, like ghosts slipping out of a crowded room, we were gone. We didn't run. Running would draw suspicion. Jake kept his arm light against mine, steadying me, guiding me to the front hall. Dad passed us, clapped Jake on the back. Great cake, huh? Jake forced a laugh. The best. That word, son, still echoed in my ears as Dad called it after us, acid burning my throat. Outside, the golden light of evening cast long shadows across the yard. For a moment, it looked beautiful, almost normal. But every step toward the car was weighted, every breath caught in my chest. Jake quickened his pace only once we were beyond the view of the windows. When the car doors shut and the locks clicked into place, I thought I'd finally feel relief. But Jake's words shattered that hope. They had sedatives in the kitchen drawer, he said, starting the engine but keeping his voice low. What my voice cracked. I found an unmarked pill bottle behind the silverware. Stronger dosage than anything your grandma should be taking. Crushed residue on the cap. This isn't her medication. I covered my mouth with my hand. My whole body trembled. They've been drugging her. He nodded once, eyes flicking between the rearview mirror and the road. And that's not all. One of those men in the house wasn't eating, wasn't mingling. He had paperwork hidden under his jacket, signatures, medical forms. Forged. I saw your grandmother's name written in sloppy handwriting that doesn't match hers. My chest felt like it was collapsing. They're making her look incompetent. That's my guess. If she's declared legally unfit, they'll gain control of everything. I stared out the window as the house shrank in the distance, the banner still fluttering above the garage like some cruel parody of celebration. And we were just sitting there eating cake. Not anymore, Jake said firmly, taking a sharp turn off the main road. Fear crawled through me as I noticed the phone in my lap. A text appeared on the screen from an unknown number. Just 5 words. "Why did you leave?" My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. The words glared up at me from the screen. "Why did you leave?" I turned the phone toward Jake, his jaw clenched. "They're watching us, don't respond." But I couldn't stop staring at it. How did they know we were gone so quickly? Had someone followed us? Were there trackers on our car? Every shadow outside the window felt alive, every passing headlight a threat. Jake took a deep breath, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "We need to assume they'll come after us. We can't go back to the hotel, too obvious." Then where I whispered, "My cousin lives an hour away, remote. No one will think to look there." I nodded numbly, still clutching the phone. Another text appeared before I could turn off the screen. "This doesn't have to get ugly." Ugly. The word made bile rise in my throat. What had they already done to Grandma? And what more were they willing to do? I thought of Sierra's smile, the clipboard, her sharp eyes darting every time Grandma slumped too far in her chair. She had known. She had planned this. And Dad? Dad had welcomed me like a trophy guest while plotting behind my back. Tears stung my eyes. How could they do this to her? She's their mother. Their grandmother. Jake's voice was tight, low. "Because money does things to people. Your dad is drowning in debt, isn't he? He mentioned something about lost investments last time." I nodded, remembering overheard conversations about bad deals and shortfalls. I'd brushed them off, thinking they were just his usual exaggerations. But if the house, the land, the estate, if all of that transferred to him and Sierra, every problem vanished. Except for Grandma, except for me. We drove in silence for miles, the road stretching endlessly under the dark sky. Every bump jolted me awake. Every rustle of trees outside made me flinch. I could feel Jake's tension, his determination to protect me. But even that comfort was thin against the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. Finally, when the headlights of his cousin's farmhouse appeared in the distance, I exhaled for the first time since leaving. But even there in the quiet kitchen, lit only by a single lamp, I couldn't shake the dread. I sat at the wooden table, scrolling through my phone, afraid to turn it off, afraid to leave it on. More messages had appeared. "We just want to talk. Come back before it's too late." Jake paced the floor, rubbing his temples. "They're bluffing. They want to scare you into cooperating." What if they're not bluffing? I asked, my voice breaking. What if they hurt her? What if by running we just left her alone with them? That thought hit me harder than anything else. I could still see Grandma's tired eyes, the way her hand had trembled when she tried to blow out the candles. She was alone in that house, trapped with the very people who were supposed to love her most. I buried my face in my hands. She took care of me when no one else did. When Dad ignored me, when Sierra mocked me, she was the one who made me feel like I mattered. And now I just walked away. Jake knelt beside me, his hands firm on mine. "You didn't walk away, you saw the truth. That's the first step. We can't help her if we're trapped too. We need proof, evidence, something no one can deny." His words lit a spark through my despair. Evidence. That was the only way. Without it, it would be my word against theirs, and I knew who Dad's lawyers, Sierra's charm, and their money would convince. I wiped my tears, straightened in my chair. "Then we go back." Jake's eyes widened. "Maya, not tonight, not like this. But we go back. We find the documents, the pills, whatever they're hiding. We show the world what they've done." For the first time all evening, I felt something other than fear. Rage. Cold, steady rage that stiffened my spine and silenced the shaking in my hands. Jake studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "If we do this, we do it carefully. No mistakes. We gather what we need and get out." I nodded back. "For Grandma." But before we could plan another step, a sharp knock rattled the farmhouse door. Both of us froze, hearts leaping into our throats. Jake motioned for me to stay quiet. He edged toward the window, peeked out, then turned to me with a look that made my blood run cold. "They found us." The knock came again, louder this time, echoing through the farmhouse like a warning. My heart pounded in my ears. Jake raised a finger to his lips, signaling me to stay still, but my body was already trembling uncontrollably. He edged toward the door, slow, deliberate, every muscle in his frame coiled tight. I wanted to scream at him not to open it, but before he could reach for the knob, a voice drifted through the wood. "Maya, honey, it's your father. Let's talk." The sound made my stomach twist violently. His tone was calm, almost tender, but underneath was something sharp, something rehearsed. Jake's jaw locked as he mouthed, "Don't move." Another knock, softer this time. "You left in a hurry. People are worried. Let's settle this like family, sweetheart." Family. The word tasted like poison. Jake slipped his phone from his pocket, already dialing 911, but before he could press send, another voice joined in. "Sierra." "Maya, don't be dramatic. You're overthinking everything. Grandma's fine. We just want to explain. Open the door." Her voice was sugar-coated, but I could hear the edge beneath it. The same edge I'd grown up with, the voice she used to slice me down whenever I stood in her way. Jake held his phone up, showing me the weak signal bars. "We're too far out," he mouthed. "No service." Panic clawed at my throat. We were alone. No neighbors, no backup. Just the dark countryside and the people who had already proven they'd drug my grandmother to get what they wanted. Then came the rattling, the doorknob twisting, a hand testing the lock. Jake pressed his shoulder against the door, his voice low and steady. "Leave now, or I'm calling the sheriff." Silence. A pause heavy enough to crush me. Then footsteps retreating across the gravel. My father's voice quieter now, almost mocking. "You can't hide forever, Maya. You'll see we're right in the end." The sound of tires crunching on the road followed, fading into the night. I exhaled so sharply it hurt. My hands covered my face as tears leaked through my fingers. "They know where we are. They'll come back." Jake crouched in front of me, gripping my hands. "Then we don't give them the chance. Tomorrow we move, but tonight we rest. You need your strength." Rest. As if sleep were possible, with betrayal pounding in my chest. Still, exhaustion eventually dragged me under. My dreams were fragmented. Grandma reaching for me. Sierra's cold smile. Dad's voice calling me sweetheart, like it meant something. When morning came, I woke to sunlight spilling across the farmhouse floor and the smell of coffee. Jake was already at the table, scribbling notes, planning. He looked up as I stirred. "I've been thinking, if they're forging documents, they'll need a notary, or at least witnesses. Paper trails. We find those, we break everything wide open." My chest tightened with dread, but I nodded. "Then we go back. We find the proof." We waited until dusk, slipping into town like ghosts. I pulled a cap low over my face while Jake parked far from the house. My childhood home loomed against the evening sky, warm lights glowing in the windows. From the outside it looked so ordinary, but inside I knew was rot. We crept along the back fence. The same suited men lingered near the porch, smoking, their eyes scanning the yard. We waited until they moved toward the front, before slipping inside through the side door. The house was too quiet. No laughter, no music, none of the party noise from before. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the faint creak of the floor beneath our feet. In the kitchen, I pulled open the drawer Jake had mentioned. There it was, the unmarked bottle. My fingers trembled as I held it up to the dim light. Powdered residue clung to the rim. The pills rattled faintly inside. Evidence. Jake's eyes swept the counters. He found a stack of papers tucked under a fruit bowl. Medical forms, legal documents, all with Grandma's shaky signature scrawled across the lines. But even at a glance, I knew they weren't hers. The handwriting was jagged, uneven. Nothing like the graceful loops she had practiced her whole life. My stomach twisted. They're already filing her as incompetent. Jake snapped photos quickly, his hands moving with precision. I tucked the pill bottle into my bag. Every nerve in my body screamed that we were running out of time. And then from the hallway, a voice. "Maya." My heart stopped. Grandma's voice, faint but real. I turned, and there she was, standing in her nightgown, her eyes glassy, her body frail. She looked smaller than ever, but she was awake. And when her eyes found mine for a split second, I saw clarity. "Help me," she whispered. Those two words helped me, cut through me like glass. I rushed to Grandma's side, catching her frail body before she collapsed. Her skin was cold, her breath shallow, but her grip on my wrist was desperate, alive. For a moment, it wasn't the sedated stranger I'd seen slumped in that armchair. It was my grandmother again, the woman who used to braid my hair and whisper bedtime stories when my father had long since stopped checking on me. Shh, I whispered, tears burning my eyes. I've got you, Grandma, I promise. Jake scanned the hallway, tense. We need to move now. If she's awake enough to speak, they won't let her stay that way. I nodded, but before we could guide her toward the door, a voice rang out from the living room, going somewhere. Sierra stepped into the hall, her arms crossed, a smirk twisting her perfect face. Behind her, my father emerged, his eyes cold, his jaw set like stone. And then the suited men, two of them blocking the only exit. Grandma whimpered softly, clinging tighter to me. I felt my rage ignite like fire in my chest. You drugged her! I spat at Sierra, holding up the pill bottle from my bag. You signed her name on documents she didn't even understand. You call that family? Call. Sierra rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic, Maya. We're protecting her. You wouldn't understand. Protecting her. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. You're stealing everything she built. You're robbing her while she's still alive. Dad stepped forward, his voice deep and deliberate. It's not stealing when we're her blood. You were always the outsider, Maya. Grandma took you in because she pitied you. But you'll never belong the way Sierra does. This estate, this legacy, it was always meant for her. The words hit like a slap, dredging up every childhood memory of being second best, overlooked, unwanted. But instead of breaking me, they fueled the fire. You think I don't belong? I held up my phone. The screen glowing with photos Jake had snapped, pills, forged documents, men guarding the house. Let's see what the court thinks. Let's see what the sheriff says when he sees this. For the first time, Sierra's smirk faltered. Dad's eyes darkened. Give me the phone. Jake stepped between us, his stance rigid, unflinching. Not a chance. The air crackled with tension. One of the suited men moved closer, but before he could reach us, Grandma's voice rose, trembling but clear. Enough. We all froze. Her eyes, foggy moments before, now blazed with a sharpness I hadn't seen in years. She clutched my hand, her voice gathering strength. I may be old, but I am not gone. And I see what you've done. Both of you. Sierra flinched. Dad's jaw tightened. You tried to silence me. Grandma continued, her words shaking with fury. But you forgot who I am. This house, this land, it's mine, and I choose who it goes to. Her body trembled, but her voice carried like thunder. For years you schemed, and for years Maya has been the only one who stayed by my side. She is my family, not you, not anymore. Tears spilled down my cheeks as I held her. Grandma. The men hesitated, uncertain now. Sierra sputtered, her confidence crumbling. She's confused. She doesn't know what she's saying. Enough. Grandma's shout silenced her. You will not drug me again. You will not sign my name. You will not steal from me. And then the sound of sirens pierced the night. Jake's cousin, bless him, had driven into town after we failed to call. He'd told the sheriff everything. The flashing red and blue lights painted the windows, footsteps thundered across the porch, and the men at the door finally backed away. It all blurred after that. Officers stormed in demanding explanations. Dad tried to spin lies about misunderstandings. Sierra wailed about family loyalty, but the evidence in my bag and on my phone told the truth louder than any of them could. The pill bottle, the forged signatures, the witnesses we'd documented. By dawn, Dad and Sierra were in custody, their empire crumbling around them. Grandma rested in a hospital bed, doctors carefully flushing her system of the drugs. For the first time in months, she slept peacefully. When she woke, she squeezed my hand, her eyes soft. I'm proud of you, Maya. You saved me. I broke, then sobbing into her chest, the years of doubt and longing pouring out. For once, I didn't feel like the outsider. For once, I felt like I belonged exactly where I was meant to be. The weeks that followed were a blur of court dates, statements, and signatures, but this time they were real, signed by Grandma's own steady hand. She amended her will, making it clear that I would inherit the home she had built not as a prize, but as a promise that truth would outlive deceit. Sometimes I walk the halls of that house now, and I still hear the echoes of that night, the knocks on the farmhouse door, Sierra's smug voice, my father's venom. But I also hear Grandma's voice, strong and unyielding. Enough. And I carry that word with me. Because family is not about blood. Family is about loyalty, about truth, about who stands beside you when the shadows close in. I learned that night that betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from those closest to you. But I also learned that courage, quiet, stubborn courage can shatter even the darkest schemes. So if you've ever felt like the outsider, like the one who didn't belong, let my story be a reminder. Your worth isn't defined by who claims you, it's defined by who you choose to be. If my story touched you, please like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories like mine. And I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever uncovered a secret that changed your family forever? Leave a comment below.